Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jason Maganoy. I am the publisher of Maclean's. And today we're going to be having a really phenomenal conversation. And it's tied to our Maclean's has a program called the Innovator in Residence Program. We welcome incredible leaders in business, innovation, activism, sports, arts and culture to talk about things that are important, talking about innovation and the work that they're doing on the front lines. Um, Today's conversation is going to be great. We're going to be talking about the economy. And one of the things I'll say is that Maclean's had this cover about the economy, and it was this roller coaster that was like, oh my gosh, we're on the roller coaster of the economy. But underneath it, we were trying to explore really important themes and values that we hope will guide our economy in Canada. These are themes and values like innovation, inclusion, trust. And we're hoping that these things will inform Canada's productivity and also help us become more prosperous as a nation. And that is just an incredible question. It's a challenge. And we're going to deep dive that today. So the two people who are going to help me get to the bottom of it are here. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself. So we'll start off with Sasha.
Sure. Good afternoon. Nice to be here. You've covered some hot topics. I'm excited to jump into them. But I'm Sasha Krstic. I'm the president of MasterCard Canada. We're a technology company in the payment space. And so we're passionate about empowering people, empowering economies. I've lived around the world, 3 different continents, and came home to Canada, which I think is sort of the core of our conversation because there is so much potential, so much opportunity, so much to love about this great country of ours. But to your point, Jason, there are challenges. There are economic issues that we're dealing with, productivity challenges. And at the end of the day, while those are big topics, they all are driven by and impact each of us as individuals. So I'm a passionate advocate for inclusion, humanity, and this great country that we live in. I'm also a mom, a sister, a wife, a daughter, a friend, in addition to being a business leader. And so I'm really looking forward to the conversation with you and Fatima around how do we bring these big, meaty topics down to a very practical, personal level that we're all living through today.
Amazing.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fatima Zaidi. I'm the founder and CEO of Quill, which is a podcast production agency that specializes in creating shows for Fortune 500 brands. And I'm also the CEO and founder of Co-Host, which is a technology product analytics tool and company for organizations that are looking for more data around their content mediums and audio shows. Like Sasha, I have a global perspective. I was born and raised in the Middle East and found my way to Canada and absolutely love this country for, all of the great things that it has to offer. But I would say, very much looking forward to the conversation today about how we can help Canada drive Canada into a more competitive environment, especially as it pertains to our neighbors. And just really give ourselves a louder voice on the global stage. So that perspective, I think, is really important. The pros, the cons, and looking forward to diving in to talk about the good, bad, and the ugly.
Amazing. I mean, you're also our innovator in residence. So thank you.
Yes,
thank you for being here.
you.
So I'm going to pick your brain right now. So, you're an entrepreneur, you're a woman of color. What challenges have you faced in the Canadian business landscape, and how have you navigated them to build your very successful and innovative business?
I often think about this question that I get asked on a lot of stages, and it's like, what are the challenges that come? And as if it's being an entrepreneur isn't hard enough, but then you're throwing in all of these other complicated layers. And I will say that being a female founder has brought a unique set of challenges to the table. I mean, for one, it requires us to be resilient and over-prepared in almost every aspect of our business, especially as it pertains to revenue and raising capital. And I think even outside of those challenges, it means being the hardest working person in the room, because for me, preparation equates to confidence. I will say I have always felt this pressure that the margin of error is very thin and that there's always a constant need to demonstrate my capabilities and experience. And these experiences, I would say on the plus side, haven't only strengthened my resolve, but really shaped my leadership style. I think it's my work ethic and drive what's pushed me to create a very diverse and well-represented team. And like Sasha, I've always prioritized inclusion and brought people together from different perspectives. But what that's done is created a very high performing culture at Quill. So, pros and cons to being, a BIPOC female founder in this space, but overall, I would say net positive, because really taking those challenges and turn them into opportunities for myself and my employees.
Well, I mean, so you talked about you touched upon it there, a high performing, inclusive environment. Um, did you do that did you do that on purpose, or did it just happen because these are the people in your life?
Well, it's funny. I always get asked this question, like, how do you have such a diverse team? We actually look like a postcard from United Nations. It looks like an ad when you look at our team bio page. And people do ask, has that been really intentional? And it actually hasn't been intentional. I've always hired the best person, the one who's most qualified and who has the right attitude for the job. And that just so happens to be a very diverse workforce. I will say what I have worked on intentionally is taking a look at my own unconscious biases and seeing where those prescriptive stereotypes can come from, so that I can approach things in hiring and recruiting from a very inclusive perspective. And over time, I've become hyper aware of the fact that there are so many studies out there that are, and I know we're going to dive into this deeper today in our conversation, the impact of representation and diversity on your business. And I think that's actually one of the biggest things that I would attribute Coil and Coho's success to, is the high performing culture.
Well, I mean, that takes me to my question for Sasha, which is so again, Fatima touched upon it. Inclusive environments are high performing. So in this case, inclusive environments, you would hope contribute to a greater sense of prosperity. How have you seen that play out in your own career, and how have you seen that play out at MasterCard?
Sure. I mean, I think it's absolutely true. So I love that Fatima has jumped into that right away. I mean, certainly from my personal career perspective, I'm a child of immigrants, first generation Canadian, grew up in Canada, had the opportunity to live overseas and chose to come back. And so through those experiences and exposures to different cultures, whether here in Canada or around the world, I think you learn to appreciate the very fundamental and crucial nature of listening to different perspectives, immersing yourself in different perspectives, and then figuring out how to bring all of those perspectives together for a greater outcome. And so if I translate that from my personal view to what we do at MasterCard and the broader workforce, I mean, clearly fostering both innovation and inclusion are key to driving economic growth. I mean, we believe in diversity and inclusion. It drives better decision-making, more innovative solutions, a more engaged workforce. And Canadians are telling us that. So we just did some recent research that Canadians told us, 74% of Canadians told us that diversity, equity, inclusion are crucial for achieving an ideal vision for the country, whatever vision that might be in your own personal way. But to have something as fundamental as inclusion be that meaningful in making the country that you live in an ideal version of it, I think is really, really powerful. And so then if you translate that to how do you bring that to life from a MasterCard or a company perspective, we've taken a really strong focus. I mentioned earlier this notion of powering economies and empowering people down to the individual level. And if you power people and empower people individually, that is the 40 million Canadians that we have. If they are individually empowered within a framework of a society that is inclusive and diverse and supportive, you can really drive productivity and economics. So part of that involves not only building the inclusivity, but removing barriers. So a couple of examples. MasterCard is a really proud partner of Powwow Pitch. And Powwow Pitch is an organization that supports Indigenous entrepreneurs and gives them access to not only funding, but mentorship, exposure. And so when you bring Indigenous entrepreneurs into the Canadian economy at a level that is more equal to what other entrepreneurs experience, that rises the entire economic engine of Canada. Take another example is True Name. True Name is a product that we launched in 2022, which allows transgender and non-binary individuals to put their name of choice on their payment card. And that is so incredibly powerful because it allows them to engage with the economy in the way that they have identified themselves. And again, that's a really personal example of an individual success can enhance overall productivity and innovation. And if I just draw that to internally at MasterCard, Fatima, you talked about, are you intentional or are you not intentional around building diverse teams? I think there's a combination of both. One is if it's part of your core values, it will happen. But in order to make it part of your core values, you have to make an intentional choice to do so. And, certainly in the way I lead my team and MasterCard more broadly, we believe that when you have an inclusive workforce that is representative of the society we live in, and sure, there's always pockets that you can be more inclusive of, but if your intention is to build a workforce that represents the society that we work in and the society that we serve with our products and solutions, then you just definitely get a better outcome. And so it shifts from being, frankly, a moral imperative to it's just good business. It's a good business imperative that helps us stay competitive and relevant.
I'm the publisher of Canadian Business as well. And, historically, like, it's not like I saw a lot of BIPOC entrepreneurs being covered on those pages, and we're doing a way better job of it now. And we're covering more women, more BIPOC entrepreneurs, et cetera. And my question is, what are they doing? Like, tough barrier to entry, they enter anyway. What are they doing to build their businesses, contribute to prosperity? How are they driving economic growth in Canada? And how can we make sure that we amplify that impact further?
Yeah, so I will say, I think publications are, definitely catching on to the fact that we need more representation across all media outlets, and the financial benefits of, profiling folks from all backgrounds. I will say, though, with a lot of outlets, it does still feel a little bit performative in that it's a diversity quota being checked. Recently, for example, I had somebody reach out for an opportunity, and it looked like a really great opportunity. And I scrolled down the chain, and it specifically said in one of the email threads, and let's ask Fatima, because not only is she a woman, but she's also a person of color. So I responded back being like, well, am I getting this opportunity because I'm qualified for the opportunity and because of the great work our team has done? Or is it because I'm a woman and you're looking to fill a quota? And so I think organizations do need to be a little bit more mindful of the reasons and reasons if they're looking to profile and build a more inclusive culture within their media outlets. I will say Canadian Business has been absolutely amazing in bringing opportunities historically and consistently to my team. But we have a long way to go. I mean, in podcasting alone, I'm one of 5 female founders that owns a company. And I think that, the stats are there. I mean, we have a really long way to go. Not to be pessimistic, but, I was reading a report by McKinsey that was put out. Every year they do a Diversity Matters report, and findings are really clear. I think they profiled 366 companies, and companies in the top quartile for racial and ethnic diversity are 35% more likely to have financial returns above national industry medians. And the question that I really want to ask ourselves is, we all can't argue the benefits of representation. The more diverse we are, the more likely we are to come up with groundbreaking and innovative ideas and advance faster. Then why are some of our industries like podcasting and like tech still so homogenous?
Yeah, why? That's actually like
Why?
that's a really good. It's
Why?
like it's because, like, one of the things that I've discovered is, like, as I've been in this seat, like, I encounter so many incredible entrepreneurs of color who are just doing wonderful things in this country. We want to amplify their stories. We want to have representation, so more BIPOC entrepreneurs will want to enter the space and want to participate in Canada. But why? But why, despite that kind of purposeful push, it still remains as homogenous? Like, what are your feelings on that?
I mean, I think that, like, unconscious bias is a work in progress. It takes a really, really long time and a lot of work and effort to take a look at the preconceived notions and prescriptive stereotypes that we all have. And I don't want to say that it's like a specific type of person. I know that I've had to work really hard to sort of eliminate unconscious biases in my hiring practices as well. And so I think that it's just a lot of work that needs to go in. And I think there are certain companies like MasterCard, for example, powerful, that have historically put in a lot of work and effort to make sure that their practices are very inclusive, and they're looking to see where the gaps are. But industries like, I think, tech, and particularly the VC landscape, where a lot of funding is allocated to different founders, there is a prescriptive stereotype on what a successful founder looks and talks like. And if you don't fit into that mold or that box, you often lose opportunities to someone who looks and sounds more like the part. That is one of the main reasons that I decided to bootstrap Quill and co-host rather than bring in external capital. I wanted to prioritize my customers over investors who I knew had a lot of biases. And if you look at the historical stats of VC companies in Canada, look at how much funding is going to female founders, and then look at how much funding is going to BIPOC female founders. And not all VC companies, I would say Ava and Alan Lau, co-founders of Two Small Fish Ventures, have done an incredibly amazing job at trying to push the landscape forward for female founders, but not without taking any names. Most VC companies fall into that box that I'm referring to.
Wow. You know, my next question is for Sasha, which is about technology. You know, obviously pandemic happened. We're on Zoom right now. We're at Zoom. We're talking to each other. I find that I find my tech stack is immaculate. I have there's so much tech stack in my life and in my work. So what role can technology play in fostering economic growth and inclusion in Canada? And how can technology actually play a role to help small businesses and entrepreneurs?
So in terms of specifically talking about how technology can help small businesses, there are a ton of ways. One, it can help you grow your business. If you accept a digital payment tool like a MasterCard, obviously, if you're getting your customers to pay with more than cash, they can buy more things. You can reach them in more places than just in your store and online. If you're online and you think about digitization, you talked about the pandemic and how it enabled your tech stack to be great. Imagine if you're a small business or an entrepreneur, you have to have that online presence if you want to grow beyond just your neighborhood reach. And so if you're digital, then there are things that happen in the digital world that don't necessarily happen in the physical world. You know, if you own a storefront, you need to have good security to lock your front door every night when you walk out, maybe some bars on your windows. How do you recreate that in the digital space? So technology, for example, helps small businesses make sure that their businesses online are cyber safe and cyber secure. And we've done a lot of work in this area, partnering with organizations like Digital Main Street, or offering free cyber assessment tools for small business owners to make sure they have the comfort of how do they keep their business safe. Managing your business also. We know that entrepreneurs, and Fatima, you can probably talk about when you first started, all the things you have to do, right? CEO of a company is a nice title, but you're also the chief marketing officer, customer service, you're responsible for shipping, you're responsible for customer complaints and satisfaction. And so if you're managing your business as a small business and an entrepreneur, that's a lot of extra work. So how can technology help? One of our partnerships is with Virtual Gurus, a fantastic company that offers virtual support, administrative support, executive support, so that small businesses can buy sort of fractional access to having an EA or an admin. Why? So that they can focus on growing their business and leave some of the day-to-day tasks to broader team members, whether it's full-time team members or part-time team members. And so the idea there is technology can help you grow, digitize, keep your business safe, and manage your business. And if you're a small business owner, you probably need better access to having that all in one place, as opposed to trying to run around and figure out how do you access these technological tools.
Wow. I mean, I love all the partnerships that you're developing.
Yeah.
They're really good. Like lots of value add there. How do I learn about them? Like, how do I learn? Like, how do I? If I my wife she's an entrepreneur. She has a clinic. She has she has like 8 staff now. So she's grown from like herself to 8 staff.
Amazing.
how did she learn about these resources that you have? Because she can definitely use a fractional chief marketing officer. I just did her Google AdWords, terrible. Like just I'm not very good at that technology.
I hope she's paying you appropriately then, Jason. So definitely come to the mastercard.ca website. We have a small business center that will offer a lot of these resources. We're a big fan of one-stop shopping. I would encourage people to also check out Digital Main Street. They are a fantastic organization that provides resources for small businesses. And I think, to your point on that's where you find the information, but just as important, why do we do it? We do it because of two reasons. One, we know that small businesses have a lot on their plate. And so the easier we can make this one-stop shopping, it's the thing that we hear constantly from small businesses. There's a lot of places I can go to find resources, but if I have to look in 5 different places, it's a time and energy suck from growing my actual business. And then secondarily, kind of going back to our original theme of how do you drive prosperity? You need to do that through inclusion and collaboration. And while MasterCard is a vast company, both globally and in Canada, there are things that are core to our business, and there are areas where we look to partners to help augment either the perspectives that we don't have, like our partnerships with Powwow Pitch and Digital Main Street, or tools and assets that already exist, but we can bring them into the fold and help amplify them so that we don't have to create new ones, and we can give credit to the organizations that are doing great work today.
Wow, that's great. And this takes me to this that metric that you touched upon, said like the 98% of they're all small businesses. That's what's driving our economy.
Backbone of our economy.
Yeah.
And so when you're saying that 98%, my question on that is like this idea of innovation. Like there's this awesome small business near my house. I bought shoelaces there. I was like, oh, I was gonna pay with my debit card, and he was literally like cash only. And then we stood there. I had no idea what to do. Like I was like, oh my God, I don't know where to get cash. And then, but that guy's business, crushing it. It's been there like 98 years. Like he is on the right track. So there's this tension between like smaller businesses, how innovative are they? Like the innovation point of view, and are they innovative? So my question then for Fatima is like, what does innovation mean to you personally in an environment like this? There's lots of small business. So what does innovation mean to you personally? And how do you incorporate innovative practices into your business to stay ahead in a very competitive market where there's lots of big businesses and global businesses as well?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I think the term innovation can be pretty nebulous, and the interpretation can be so subjective based on who you talk to. But when companies do innovate, like Quill and co-host, it really allows us to stay relevant and competitive within the sectors that we're in. We have some really big VC funded competitors, and we're a bootstrap company, and yet a few years in a row we've hit multiple fastest growing company in Canada lists. Canadian Business is one of them. And, I get asked all the time, like, how have you been able to scale without raising external capital? And how is that translated into the innovative work that you're doing? I mean, for starters, I would say our tech product and Prefix is the first Canadian platform that has innovated in the podcasting landscape to equip users with better data. We have 3 competitors, and they're all American. Our commitment to innovation extends way beyond just our own product. We rely heavily on AI to generate and scale content across our channels, increasing our ability to engage with community as well as our customers. And we're also just very much early adopters of tech. We've always been early adopters of tech and constantly thinking about how we can stay ahead of the curve and just have that really competitive mindset, which I find isn't as common in Canada as I'd like to see. Especially when we look at the sort of companies within our portfolio, our partners. A lot of the American companies have like a very think big mentality. They're not traditional with their spending. They're early adopters of technology. Whereas specifically in Canada, I feel like sometimes technology or innovation can be viewed as a threat. People worry about AI and bots replacing their jobs. People realizing that, they could be left behind if we suddenly become early adopters of new advancements. Personally, for me, we've always been of the mindset that technology shouldn't be viewed as a threat, but something that can help you scale faster and get bigger over time. I mean, not just even with co-host and Quill, I'm the chair of Sick Kids and constantly seeing every day, because I'm fundraising for a lot of the big data and AI projects that allow Sick Kids to be more proactive rather than reactive with child healthcare. Canadians increasingly support businesses that are aligned with meaningful causes, a trend that has only grown since COVID, the pandemic. And I find that by integrating tech into our mission, we create a powerful synergy between innovation and purpose-driven branding. This attracts support and funding, but also reinforces the idea that technological advancement and social good can go hand in hand. And so for me, that has really been the mantra that I've led Quill and co-host, and then all of the philanthropic endeavors that I've been involved with as well, is social good can be scaled at a whole new level if you're thinking about innovating and utilizing tech to make those advancements. And I think the proof is sort of in the results. I mean, Sick Kids is now the #1 children's hospital in the world. What is the difference between them and some other pediatric research centers? It is the fact that they are investing in big data projects and AI, and innovating. They're essentially always ahead of the curve, and they've always been at the forefront of innovation.
Wow. I mean, but my segue to this question though is for you, Sasha. Like this idea of everyone has a MasterCard. Everyone has sort of like
I sure hope so.
Oh, I have like nine.
You
I
can't
have
shop
nine
at, you can't shop at No Frills and Loblaws without a PC MasterCard anymore. It just can't happen.
Well, that's the thing. Like, so everyone has sort of like a really specific experience with the brand. I've been learning a lot about the MasterCard brand. It is incredibly innovative, the way you're sort of occupying different passion points, all these different verticals, the way you're investing in a lot of different things. Innovation seems to be really important. You're a very big company. How do you scale that out across like such a massive team? Like how does everyone get how do you evangelize this? How do you get them to participate? And how do you get them to not be afraid of some of the change that you're at the forefront of driving in the economy in Canada?
So if you think about our core values of grow together, move fast, and create value, we have our team members think about how they do that internally with their everyday jobs in sales, finance, marketing, whatever it may be. But then you translate that to with our partners, whether they're financial institutions, technology companies, merchants, government. We also want to help them do the same thing. We want them to move fast. We want them to create value. We want them to grow together with us. And then if you take that one step further, you can apply that to the Canadian economy or whatever economy we operate in around the world. But from a Canada perspective, I think about how do we get Canadians doing exactly those three things as well, or leveraging our values to help their lives become more prosperous and more innovative. And Canadians are telling us that they define prosperity now in an interesting way. So 60% of Canadians will say that they feel personally prosperous, but not as high a number, hovering around just under 50, will say Canada is a prosperous nation. And then if you take that a step further and ask Canadians, what does personal prosperity mean to you? They will say a much more holistic definition than what we might be used to. So 49% are now citing health and well-being as a top factor in defining are they prosperous or not. That's followed by financial stability at 46%, but you can see those two go hand in hand. And so Canadians are saying, I want to have a balanced view, a holistic view of prosperity. And so we're thinking about our business in the same way. On the financial well-being side, we need to offer tools through all of our many partners to help Canadians manage their money, to pay and get paid how they want to, whether it's as individuals or as companies. But then we also want to make sure that they have access to bringing health and well-being to top of mind for them, whether that's through their passion points, whether that's through other priceless moments that can make their lives more memorable, more enjoyable. And I think, Fatima, as I was listening to you talk about incorporating innovation, I would have said like, yes, that times two. Because if you think about the importance of innovation and technology in bringing well-being and financial stability to life, there's a lot of that is grounded in artificial intelligence, which Fatima talked about. Artificial intelligence will help us become more efficient. It helps us become more efficient as an economy. But more importantly, if you think about the future of artificial intelligence, we need to build artificial intelligence capabilities based on the society we live in. So that leads to thinking about STEM education and how inclusive is STEM education. So if we have engineers who are women, men, non-binary, from all sorts of cultures, all sorts of backgrounds, that means the code that they develop will inherently be more inclusive and more resistant to bias. And so when we build that into our technology, inherently we're then putting out into the market technology that will build a more prosperous nation because it's representative of the nation that we live in. And so that's a bit of a view, Jason, on how we take these big global principles and bring them really right down to a very specific level nationally in Canada, but down to the individual of a Canadian who is thinking about what does their future prosperity look like.
Wow. And as you were even describing that, it just, in terms of your scale, like everyone is your customer, me and a bank and
Sure.
the government. It's incredible. So we're approaching the end of the fireside chat, and my final question is two-pronged. And we're going to go back to this idea of productivity and prosperity in terms of just so the definition, and you touched upon it, Sasha, the definition of prosperity is changing. So for the both of you, like my question for the both of you is, and we talked about innovation, but what innovations do you see coming out that are going to just help us be more productive or help deal with some of the productivity challenges? So what are some innovations that'll help us deal with that? And how will those how will those contribute to that new definition of what a prosperous future is in Canada? So let's start with Fatima. What are your thoughts on that?
I think for us at Quill and co-host integrating advanced tech such as AI, we've been able to really improve our operational efficiency. There's like no denying that. And I think that innovation really fosters the development of new products and services for us in an environment. I would say podcasting itself, you have to be an early adopter. It is a new content medium. So we are opening new markets, leading to economic growth and job opportunities and investments. I mean, we employ 30 full-time employees in Canada, and I've noticed that the more tech we're integrating into our product, the more jobs that are opening up in R&D within our organization. I've been doing a lot of, I would say, Coles Notes reading on other innovative projects that are sort of taking place in Canada, whether it's the Sidewalks Labs project or the work that, Sick Kids Hospital is doing. And it really sort of points in the direction of like leading with example, which is tech innovation really significantly improves societal benefits. However, I will say on the flip side, we as a country have a lot of work to do in terms of supporting founders and entrepreneurs. We need to see more investment in entrepreneurs for a more prosperous Canada. Canadian companies get funded much later with much less capital, forcing a lot of entrepreneurs to offshore. I'm definitely one of those entrepreneurs that's been having that conversation with my executive team, which is, does it make sense for us to financially stay in Canada forever? Or do we think about maybe offshoring to places like the US or the Cayman Islands where we get a little bit of a financial break? I mean, to me, the tax bracket system, for example, does not make sense at all for small businesses. And it's becoming harder and harder to get ahead as a small business owner. And that's even if you just take out the fundraising landscape and strictly look at if you get beyond the risk point, which our company is, and you have years of runway under your belt, just the amount of money that the governments are taking from you. It's become really difficult. So I would like to see more funding in Canadian companies, more programs like Shred and IRAP, which have really helped us to build out our product as a bootstrapped company. Those are the grant programs that have allowed us to get ahead. So, definitely giving plus points to the NRC and all of the amazing grant programs that they're putting out for folks like me who are creating jobs in Canada. But we definitely need to see more of that because the opportunities right now aren't equating to the benefits of starting a business here. I also think to continue to be prosperous, we need more entrepreneurs with a winning mindset who are competitive with big goals. More support, more resources, more investment being provided to folks like us, especially the younger generation, to incentivize them to take bigger risks. How are we going to incentivize the younger generation who are graduating from university right now to become entrepreneurs if they can't even afford to pay rent? If they're paying $3,000 for a studio apartment in Toronto, how do they have the mindset and space to be able to think about taking risks and investing in creating new opportunities in Canada? I mean, Sasha walked us through the statistical data that we're seeing in terms of how many small business owners there are. Our generation had it easy. Maybe not compared to the boomers, but we have it a lot easier than the younger generation that's coming through and graduating right now. And we think we have problems and we're complaining about the tax bracket and the housing crisis. These folks are graduating with, you know, 30, 40, $50,000 annual salaries, and you cannot afford to live in Toronto and pay rent on that salary. Forget thinking about the risks of starting a business and being an entrepreneur. They're looking for stability, and we really need to start mobilizing funds to support that younger generation of talent. Growing up in the Middle East, I wholeheartedly believe that Canada is superior globally in so many ways: safety, representation, immigration laws. And I know that we can maximize the country's potential to give us a louder voice on the global platform and stage. But I think it starts with the government for sure, and it starts with a lot of the social policies. But I think, and economically, we could all be doing a little bit more to support small business owners.
Wow. What are your thoughts, Sasha, on this front?
I'm going to frame it in as we think about the future of technology innovation, the what and the how. And what I mean by the what is, certainly we're going to continue to need to see technologies. And from a MasterCard perspective, we're going to focus on building technologies and solutions that provide choice. And so people and businesses need to pay and be paid. They need to have the ability to do that in a way that works for them. And what works for them will depend on their financial situation, the size of their business, perhaps the location of their business. Are they based in Toronto? Are they up north? Are they in rural Saskatchewan or Manitoba or Alberta or the East Coast, right? So there's a big range of situations that consumers and businesses are in. So they need choice to be able to pay and get paid. Technology needs to facilitate that. I think the second is we need to continue to make sure there is a foundation of trust and safety. As our world becomes more digitized and we do more things online in a digital environment, we need to make sure that that is continually top of mind. And it's like the new lens that we look through, right? Like you used to make sure that you knew that your wallet was always in your back pocket or in your purse. You'd feel it before you walked out of the house to make sure it was there. You don't do that with a physical wallet anymore, right? Because your payment credentials might be in your phone, they might be in your watch. And so you need to have comfort that that is being done safely. You know, from a MasterCard perspective, one thing I would share that I hope Canadians may not know, but will be super proud of is we have a tech center in Vancouver that is our global intelligence and cybersecurity center, which means we are building cybersecurity solutions for MasterCard based in Canada. And so we use Canadian talent, incredible engineers and data scientists, and then we send those solutions out into the MasterCard world, all around the countries that we operate in. And so I share that because I think it's important to not only maintain the focus on safety, but to emphasize that we have that talent and that ability here in Canada. So that's the what part. The how, I think, in driving future prosperity is around making sure that we are developing and working through a highly collaborative model. A big company like MasterCard, a successful entrepreneur like Fatima, we can't do it alone. We need business, academic institutions, government, all working together to create the frame for a successful and a prosperous Canada. And then knowing that each individual stakeholder will contribute what their core success, what their core capabilities are. And if we think about it through that lens, then ultimately, who's the beneficiary? Canadians, which are the foundation of our country, and the ones that drive forward not only our competitiveness in Canada, but if we have companies that are successful in Canada, that are successful on the global stage, or Canada is a country where global companies want to come and invest in, then we also create success for Canada globally. And so that notion of how and doing it through a very partnership and collaborative focus, I think is really critical for our future prosperity.
Wow. So it's like some of the table stakes here for our prosperity is like there's like a hopefully better community, better interconnectedness, better collaboration. It goes right back to what I was talking about before, about like some of those great values that we were talking about, the innovation, inclusion, building trust. this was a roller coaster of a chat. I was just like, you took me a lot of places on this chat, but Sasha, Fatima, thank you. That was phenomenal. And it's just so it's also fascinating for me as like the publisher to just to encounter like um incredible startup, incredible smaller business just driving value in Canada, and then a gigantic global business like MasterCard doing it in but you're both very similar in terms of how you drive and all the different spaces that you want to occupy and where you want to add value for Canadians.
Thank
So
you.
I want to thank you for taking the time. For everyone, when you're watching this, thank you for taking the time as well. Looking forward to seeing you at the next one. Again, Fatima, Sasha, thank you
Thanks.
again.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Michael Jordan of moderation. We'll give it up to Jason.
You're here.
And thank you everyone for tuning in.
Amazing.
Thanks for raising this important topic, Jason.
Thank you.